Hello and welcome, dear viewers. This is Kajal Goswami and you are watching the Daily Dispatch. And I am thrilled to have you join us for this special broadcast today. We are going to dive into the most talked about event of the year, the Union Budget 2025. The budget is always a crucial event in the country, and this year it holds particular importance as it is expected to shape the nation's financial future. So stay with us as we explore its key elements, its impact on different sectors, and what it means for you and me. So stay connected. To give you an analytical perspective on the budget, we have invited some renowned experts from esteemed Lovely Professional University to offer an in-depth analysis on the implications. Let me introduce our first expert, Dr. Tanima Datta, Professor, Department of Economics, Mittal School of Business, Lovely Professional University. We also have with us in our studio Dr. Sunil Kumar, Head of Department, School of Law, Lovely Professional University. Sir and ma'am, welcome. So let's start with you, ma'am. Ma'am, so my first question to you is, the income tax bill of 2025 is being talked a lot about. So what do you think is its impact on the citizens of India and the people working in corporate sector?
Okay, let's, because that's a breaking question that you are asking. Of course, budget for the common man is, it's about a few things. It's about the prices, it's about the income tax slabs. That's for the common man. If we are talking in terms of the corporate sector always looks at the tax reductions that they are going to get. What are the new plans that the government is coming out with. So in terms of, if I talk about just the income tax thing, of course the slab has been increased. I don't think so anybody would have thought, even if I talk about the satta market, the speculation market, that also never thought that it will go up to 12 lakhs. So that's a good thing. But again, how much inflation plays a spoil sport, that we have to see in the year. Though right now the inflation is well within the limits that has been prescribed by the law. As for the corporates, if we are talking about, then the corporates, again, I suppose for the corporates also it's looking pretty good right now with a lot of capex there and a lot of investments coming in. The government for the MSME sectors, the PLI has been also introduced to the MSME sectors. So I suppose all in all looks like a good budget. Of course, it's still a bill, finance bill. Let's see how both the houses, when they discuss and what comes out of it and what sort of changes we'll see. So let's, because many a times we see a lot of changes that comes through it. So waiting for that, but right now looks good.
Okay. So moving on to you, sir. So my first question to you would be, one of the key feature of this budget, in especially reform tax, how do you think that these changes the legal perspective?
When we talk of budget allocation, always, there has always been a very pressing concern from the legal fraternity, if I have to really talk about, is about the overhauling of the infrastructure of the whole legal apparatus in the country. And that has been always a very persistent demand from the last couple of decades. And because if you look at the pendency of cases, we are already crossing the 5 crore mark. So overall at the national level, we need a huge impetus over there. So I'm not sure if that is very encouraging there. There should have been more allocation on that side, I would suggest. Though there is definitely some welfare, like social welfare schemes are receiving some attention from the government. But government has continued more or less on the similar lines what was previously also being given to, let's say, if we look at the vulnerable communities. From a legal standpoint, we talk about women. Our focus is on children, the vulnerable groups among the society, marginalized groups. So if we look at the social security aspect, then that has to be ensured, and we must ensure that there is a seamless process. It is not just about the allocation of the welfare scheme, but we must remove the middlemen. We must remove that there is a DBT, that direct cash benefit transfer. That should be promoted more. So that is a concern which I feel. These are some preliminary concerns. The intention is good, no doubt about it, because I believe the government has realized this very clearly, that there is when you talk about, we see a lot of push for recruitment of women in many of the sectors where they were previously not represented. So there is generation of employment there, more sort of posts are being created. The reservation already that has seen the bill has already seen that passage. You have ample representation in the parliament, within the parliament itself. So there are voices coming out which we are also talking about speaking up for women reforms. So it really boils down to the level, let's say, the sensitivity of these particular communities can only be best represented when actually leaders from these communities, I'm talking about marginalized communities, scheduled castes, tribes, women, they sit in the parliament and they suggest reforms. So that will take time to happen, but intention is good. So let's wait and watch.
I would also definitely agree on what you said, sir. So moving on to ma'am. So my other question will be, the Union Budget 2025 has laid out on plans that would boost the economic growth of India. So how do you think the government will assess these efforts and would foster the entire process of Union Budget 2025?
Look, when it comes, there are few pointers that whether your economy is doing good, not so good, what the case is. We had a FRBM Act which was talking about the fiscal deficit. Now, this time the fiscal deficit that the government is targeting is around about 4.4% if I remember the figures rightly. If 4.4% is the fiscal deficit, very good, great. But again, it also is about, the government is also talking about the debt to GDP ratio. So that is again that we have to see. Basically, it is about the allocations, because it's a huge, it's around about 4.6 trillion rupees our budget is about. And we are going for a lot of deficit there. A lot of the payments, if you look at the highest amount or the expenditure that we are incurring, that will be for servicing of your salaries and servicing of debts. So if you are giving out for those things, then are you what about the other sectors that are there? But of course, there are certain things which are looking very, very positive. If you ask me personally, then the MSME sector is something that has to be nurtured a lot, because that is from where the employment comes in. And if you want, because like right now, 90% of your economy is in the unorganized sector. Dr. Sunil is here, he's a legal expert. He knows much better about why that unorganized sector is such a big sector, because your labor law somewhere, because the codification has been done. Now we have got the 4 codes for labor laws, but till the time you do not make it very transparent, something which can be implemented, then that unorganized sector remains unorganized. And if that remains unorganized, then a lot of things, because your entire human capital and stuff that comes from that sector, because that is one sector which is employing the maximum amount of people. So that is one thing. On the gig economy, the government has been silent.
I just wanted to interview Madam bought it right.
Yes, so gig economy is something on which the government is silent in the budget. Like what I read, I didn't see anything very prominent about the gig economy. And apart from the Rajasthan government, of course, the governments in the south are coming with legislations regarding the gig economy. But again, a very big chunk of your employment is going there, where a lot of youngsters are getting employed. But if there are no social security schemes and nothing, and the budget is very silent on that. So, of course, and one more thing has to be kept in mind, because whenever a government is formed, the first and the last budgets are generally populist budgets. And then what comes in between are the budgets where you really look forward that this is where the government is going to sink their teeth and they are going to take it forward. So this is one sector that I thought the government should have. Otherwise, it's looking good. And I know, right now, we are not expecting a lot from the government, because in India, the accountability is not fixed. So we don't expect a lot of the government doing it. But yeah, they are making the right noises, if I may say so.
That's sound great, ma'am. And as ma'am left the question quite open-ended, sir, we would love to continue with the conversation, as she highlighted the unorganized sector and the gig economy.
I think that's very rightly pointed out, because not much is being spoken about there. I remember a very lasting image of a gentleman from one of the delivery services, standing in the rain and in the traffic red light, and he has to deliver a pizza, and he's stuck in the downpour. It was a viral post. Now, that brings me to this very core question here, what we are trying to deal with here, that where is that drive, that will of the government to really take care of this particular sector, and which is bound to increase perhaps multifold in the times to come. So this gig economy is really bound to grow. As you can see, there's already huge investments by these MNCs, and you have these food chains, you have this telecommunication chain, automobile chains. So, the kind of roles and profiles which are coming up is big. But how do we really want to ensure social security, pay security? And also, government has not spoken very openly about there is a raging debate on the hours of work, So from a legal standpoint, that is a very important question. We must remember, if we go back into the history a little bit, this 8-hour work scenario also emerged on the scene after a very long battle. There was actually no tab on how many hours people are working. So when America was getting, going through this urbanization phase, or let's say London or England, London specifically, or England overall as a country was progressing as an industrialized nation, 12 hours, 14 hours, the more you work, the more pay you get, But at the end of the day, it was realized that there has to be a work-life balance. And then after a very movement of the workers, their rights movement which emerged, this 8-hour work scenario emerged. Now, we are questioning the same, and MNCs obviously have a very, very big motive there. The labor force is cheap, please let me tell you. So, as per the why it is cheap? Because we are not generating so many employment which fits the bill according to the talent of a particular person. So, we need to also generate jobs which actually cater to the talent of the person. So, lot can be done on that side too, and government must come up with a clear-cut policy paper, at least a white paper at least, on gig economy.
True. As we see that India is a developing country, so many changes are emerging, and we do expect a bright future. So, talking about the bright future, ma'am, as I mentioned earlier, that India is still a developing country, and we assume that it shall be developed by 2047. So, every year, the government of India gives a great budget to the infrastructure department. So, do you think the infrastructure development budget of 2025 is justified?
Yeah, that is very much justified, because of course, the Vision 2047 that we have, the Viksit Bharat Vision 2047, that rests on how much your economy is growing. Now, if the target of Vision 2047 is to be achieved, then your GDP has to grow at the rate of 8% per annum. Right now, what the government is talking about, the forecast is around about, say, 6.7% to 7%. That is what they are. So, we are falling a bit short there, but in terms of infrastructure, we are doing great. And the PPP mode that has come in, the public-private partnership that we have. Now, that is something that is growing, especially if you talk in terms of the roadways. Now, roadways has been developed a lot. Of course, I can always sit and debate on the quality of the roads that are being there, but that's a different issue. Because that is about accountability, good governance, and a lot of other things come in. But that is something where the infrastructure is being created a lot. The smart cities that were there, the government had already started with the smart city, and now with these 100 cities that they are talking about, which are for religious purposes, like those 100 cities that are being identified, again the infrastructure gets created for those things. So yes, with the bulging population that we have, we need to have that sort of infrastructure to support us, whether it's in terms of railways, roadways. Railways is something like that's a pet peeve of mine always, because previously we used to have a separate budget for the railways. Now railways is somewhere in the footprints, it comes in the budget that it is there. So railway infrastructure is something that the government needs to really look into, because that is the carrier of the masses. But the freight charges that are there, that has to be seen, because the freights because the industry never wants the freight charges to go up. But I personally feel that those can be revised. You cannot, for the people, for the public in general, those rates have to be kept at what they are. We need more trains than what it is. Apart from all the bullet trains and all those things that we are talking, we need trains that are there on time. And so, because last year we saw a lot of railway accidents. We did. Yeah, so we saw a lot of that. So the government need to put a lot of money out there, and if they are looking at PPP mode in there also, then that has to be very, very well defined and what are the areas that are. But I still feel that the state needs to do much more in terms of railway infrastructure. Roadways, we are doing wonderfully well. And other infrastructures are also coming up, as I mentioned about the cities and all the smart cities. So that is taking on. But time is something like, of course, we in India, we have the corruption has become so institutionalized that we do not talk about it. But if that is taken care of, we are doing wonderfully well.
True, and also I would like to add on that the Railway of India is the only sector that generates the maximum revenue, and I believe that it is being used by the labor class of India, which the majority of population consist of. So moving on to the similar question, sir, as we have already talked about the rural development, especially the ST, SCs, women and all the people who generally comprises of the major population of India. So the government focused a lot on rural budget this time. So what do you think the legal infrastructure needed to ensure that the rural areas are truly, involved in the budget legally?
See, government has tried to replicate the models of this institution where this rural development training and research is promoted. I believe one institution which is doing pretty well. So they want that to come up in a few more states. So I think that's a good move. But when we talk about, let's say, coming up of this smart cities model, or let's say if we are talking about what Madam was saying, I agree, but I would slightly differ on that part of the transportation. Railway budget, of course, it's a footnote. Otherwise, it used to be a very separate budget altogether, for a very obvious reason that it's one of the fourth largest network in the whole world, and as freight is being carried out there. But if we even talk about road transport, I would say that, you see, we need look at the number of road accidents, I mean, throughout the country, and look at the cost of human life which is happening. So you need even that needs an impetus, though symbolically some move, some Atal tunnel, or at some very places we have constructed that. So that is good to promote trade and commerce and an entry into a space where previously it was not. So I think that's a good promotional kind of a thing, which is good for a while. But I believe overall you need dedicated lanes for these freight carriers, even on the roads. You need a great, you need separate transport lanes, because there is a lot of interstate commerce which is taking place, and that needs to be regulated. And rural development, and why it needs an impetus, government must take care of these deaths which are taking place. We need focus there. Perhaps loan waiver. There were certain schemes in some which in many of the instances where many deaths took place, farm deaths took place, farmers' deaths took place, farmers' suicides took place. So we need to really remove this network of these money lenders or private money lenders, or which are beyond this institutionalized mechanism, and somehow they fall into that trap. So we need to create a safety security net. So some sort of security net has to be created because only then rural development can take place. If a farmer or if a small farmer is not feeling secure about his small farmland, about his cattle, or whatever work he does in that particular rural economy setup. So and he is always at the mercy of the money lenders. So the story was, even before independence, he was again in the trap. Even today he is in the trap of some money lenders or private money lenders at a very, very high interest rate, which is very unregulated. So something very strong needs to be done there.
I agree on that, sir. And India's majority of population consists of the people settled in rural areas. And also adding on to the point that India is now one of the most populated country in the world with almost a population of 1.7 billion. So I believe that it becomes a health concern as well for the entire country and for us as well. So ma'am, like the budget of health this time has been increased. There are sort of drugs which are considered duty free now. So would you please put some light on this?
So I am somebody who is so passionate about health, education, research. From the 60s, we have been talking about a budget allocation of 6% minimum for health and for education, and the maximum that we have reached so far is 2.8%. So that is something that needs very much, a lot of things have to be done. Now, of course, if I talk in terms of numbers, the amount will increase, like if you just look at the numbers, but numbers are very deceptive. So we always talk in terms of the percentage, that out of your total outlay, how much are you giving for these sectors. Yes, Ayush is a program which is wonderful. Your over-the-counter drugs that were very common previously, which had a lot of health implications, now that has been controlled, because now there is this Ayush thing where people get medicines at very lesser rates. So that is one thing that we are doing, and we are doing it very well. But again, the infrastructure, the previous question that you had asked about. So health infrastructure is very poor in India, and COVID was a situation which showed it to the world where we stood. So we can make a lot of tall claims, but we know that people were, even for an oxygen cylinder, we were striving for it, right? So health and education are two areas which we are not looking at. And as far as the population is concerned, I always say that your population is also your human capital. So if you are not talking about your human capital, and you are talking in terms of the burden, because by 2030 you have the demographic dividend. 2040 you can, like, but again it depends on your policies that you have. Look at China. China is of course now is the second populous country in the world. GK books have to change their statistics now, but they have invested a lot on their human capital. So we need to do that, and health is something very basic. Primary health services are there, ASHA workers are there, for which are doing wonderfully well, but again the budget allocation is very poor for the ASHA workers. So there are policies in place, but again it depends that where the priority of the government lies, and accordingly the allocations will be done. So I'm very disappointed with Madam Finance Minister this time, because she has not increased the allocation to the limit that we would, if not 6%, at least 5%. That was something that we are looking forward to. So that's a disappointment.
At least we would touch the line, if not 6, maybe 5 point something at least. Leaving on to where ma'am ended, sir. So there are a lot of social welfare programs in the budget. And what do you think from a legal standpoint, what are the legal safeguards that are necessary for the accountability and transparency of these welfare programs?
See, we must understand that Article 21 is one of the very leading articles which is there in our Constitution of India, and it is a very two-sentence worded article which simply states that every person has a right to life and liberty except according to procedure established by law. And I remember the case of Parmanand Katara versus Union of India, which is a landmark case and which upheld the right of a person to be given medical aid, immediate first aid in moments of emergency or in a situation of emergency, because we have witnessed in the society scenario where this primary or very first medical aid is refused on many grounds. Maybe there's a road accident, maybe it's a criminal case or something or the other. So institution wise, we don't have dearth of Supreme Court judgments. The mandate is already very clear. There has to be respect of life, and state cannot really withdraw in any manner, or it cannot do anything less. So state must take upon itself the full onus and responsibility of making sure that human life, as I said, human capital, we must respect human life and we must prioritize the extension of the health services. And we were talking about the ASHA workers. ASHA workers, obviously, their job has to be regularized. Maybe 1 or 2 states, as a populist measure, they may have done it, but why not at the central level? So we need to do that. Why there are no tax? You need to bring tax cuts on baby food. You need to bring baby food on formula. You need to bring tax cuts on kind of cloth items, diapers, napkins. This is how the thinking has to proceed. You must bring tax cuts on these such items which really at the ground level matter a lot. These things, look at the cost of these things. For a quality napkin or for a very life-saving drugs must cost less, should be more affordable. Life-saving drugs, the cost of that, it should not be taxed at the same rate, and it should be within the reach of the common man also. Specialized health care is now slowly becoming out of reach, and we are more and more dependent on insurance companies. So that sort of framework I think we need to come out with, and though Ayush is there and other alternative remedies are there, but we do know for a fact that there are certain ailments like cancer or some other, if I am talking about chemotherapy or if I am talking about some other treatment, you cannot ignore other scientific treatment which is there, and that must be affordable, and we need tax cuts there. Tax can be imposed on white goods. So white goods or such other luxury items, tax can be there. And also, why not let's have an idea of putting some kind of a tax on very lavish weddings. Look at the kind of weddings we have in the country. I'm just stating.
Especially the state we are living in, never seen such lavish weddings in my entire life.
Government may say that beyond a limit, some kind of tax could be there. It depends. But however, we still have to watch out over there, because we may interfere with the person's right to celebrate the way he or she wants to be. But some states are trying to regulate, like Punjab recently came out, is thinking to come out with a certain bill on it, the kind of expenditure which is being done. Some other religious and social bodies have started popularizing and promoting, very simple marriages. So I think something should be done on those lines. So that will make sure that the social welfare really happens on the ground.
Definitely, sir. As you mentioned earlier, that right to life and right to liberty should be justified more through transparency and accountability in different sectors. So without further
welfare schemes.
True, ma'am. I totally agree. And bringing back to the highlight of the answer, sir, the income tax. So this year in 2025, we have the new income tax bill 2025. So from a legal perspective, do you believe that the new provision in the income tax bill legally sound good, or do you see any potential in the upcoming years of this legal bill 2025?
Income tax slabs, as far as the revision goes, that is good enough. But in terms of, when I from a legal standpoint, we talk about equity. So let's say that the rewards of the tax, for instance, look at the benefits. Like for example, if you register your property in the name of a woman, it is subjected to less amount of registration fee. And a woman, because our society is organized, traditionally it has been a village-based society, so it is oriented in such a way, and for various socio-economic reasons, there is a safety and security net for women folk which is there. For instance, let's say the amount of gold as a reserve which an individual woman can keep, that is up to, I believe, close to almost 1 kg, if I am not wrong, close to 1 kg. But if you compare the same for a man, so that is 400 gram or 500, not more than that he can have in a bank. I am just giving an example. Now, the society is changing fast. in terms of the disputes, matrimonial, looking at the matrimonial disputes, the way society and the different parenting done, it has evolved. You have more scenarios in many of the urban centers of single parents also, for both, for male as well as female scenarios. So there's a social churning which is happening, and this is a government which is coming for the second or third time now, and they really have to grapple with these social realities. So I feel that they must take more kind of sociologists or legal experts also on board while devising some kind of a policy, or banks should come out with some kind of policies where even both the genders have some kind of security or safety reserve or net, and they enjoy some kind of, you can say, the tax benefit or some kind of incentive which is there, and some kind of scheme government can come out with where there is a safety net for, let's say, growing children. Because always the question in law is that in matrimonial dispute, that who is going to have the custody, and that is the most challenging part. So law can mandate that this particular amount, and banks can include it as a provision, something as a provision. I am just suggesting that as a provision, that this particular amount will be there as a reserve for the benefit of the child till he or she comes of age. So these kind of things can be contemplated in the long run. So the point of equity must be taken care of. That is my point.
No, sir, I definitely agree with what you said, and you also mentioned gender equality in terms of income tax, which I believe is also the highlight. So with this, we come to the end of session. I would like to thank both of our experts, Dr. Tanima and Dr. Sunil. Thank you so much for your valuable insight. And with that, we come to an end of our discussion. As our panelists rightly pointed out, while the Budget 2025 brings some much needed reforms and changes, it's important to remember that its success will ultimately depend on how well these policies are implemented and how the public responds to them. As Dr. Tanima mentioned, the tax reforms may ease the burden on middle income groups, while Dr. Sunil pointed out that legal reforms will be crucial in shaping the future of business in India. These insights gave us a lot to think about as we move forward. We will continue to bring you more insightful sessions on this subject and many others in the upcoming days. So keep watching. This is me, Kajal Goswami, signing off.